You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Sean Wilkie, and along with my awesome co-host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. Super excited for today's episode. It's been a while coming. Ivan, please go ahead and introduce today's guest.
Hi, I'm Ivan Zach. Really excited to introduce you to Kelly Cronin. So she is involved in a company called VetTechLife, and the episode is going to be about innovative veterinary training programs. So a little bit of a bio. Kelly is an international speaker presenting on leadership, management, and emergency and critical care medicine. She serves as an instructor for VSPN. She's a CEO of Success Strategies Veterinary Consulting, currently is Operations Support Manager to Veterinary Group of Specialty Emergency Hospitals on the East Coast. The organizer of VetTechLife Continuous Education on the Sea events. Kelly wrote and published In the Middle, a book of veterinary technicians in management. Kelly, welcome to the show. Thank you for finding the time.
Thank you so much for having me. Such a fun time.
So I was trying to wrap this all kind of in one kind of what do you do, and I failed, I think, understanding. You succeeded explaining, I failed understanding. So what is that most exciting thing that wakes you up in the morning and that you would like our listeners to hear about?
I think the biggest thing that wakes me up in the morning is just making sure that veterinary medicine is something that's sustainable for our team members, that it's something that's constantly moving forward. So making sure that we actually have the team members to staff our veterinary clinics, making sure that they're trained enough to do well by our clients, and making sure that we do the right thing in terms of growth as well. So lots of different things. The nice thing about that is that all of my roles really support that. So in NVA, or National Veterinary Associates, I'm an operations support manager. I get to help out multiple veterinary clinics in terms of looking at their staffing, looking at optimization of everything that they do, making sure that their teams have appropriate training and support, and everything from top to bottom. And in VetTechLife, I get to do a lot of that firsthand training. So we are in the process of really revamping that to allow us to have multiple different classes to support the veterinary teams, and in more ways than just in veterinary medicine. So support them on a financial side, on a personal side, all kinds of things that way.
And that's so awesome, Kelly. It's really interesting. I've been on the road for the last 3.5 weeks, and I've been in Kansas City, Las Vegas, Austin, at all kinds of different veterinary conferences, having really interesting conversations. And the drum that keeps beating is there's no people.
Yes.
People are leaving the profession. What are we going to do? How are we going to fix this? And people are getting desperate. So what's going to happen? How is this going to get better? How is the work that you're doing going to help the profession?
So I think that the old adage, no doctors, no dollars, no techs, no treatments, is 100% true, right? We can't keep our profession going if we don't have the team members and the people to actually do it. And I look at myself. I look at the fact that I've been in veterinary medicine for 30 years, and I say, gosh, what has kept me here when so many have left? What's kept me sane, and what's kept me waking up every day excited to do what I do? And the reason that I am excited every single day is there's always a new challenge on the doorstep. There's always something that I can grow to. And I think that honestly, that's the reason that a lot of technicians stay who are lifers, a lot of doctors who are here for 20 or 30 years, we see them go on to specialty, or we see them go on to certifications or advanced certifications, or starting their own clinic. And with the team members, what we don't see is we don't see a lot of training that's actually focused on our team members who are non-credentialed. So we get a lot of training for our veterinary assistants moving into a veterinary technician role, but we don't see a lot of training for, say, our CSRs who are upfront dealing with the day-to-day, or even for our doctors who've already been in site. We just don't see good things that are focused on helping them on a day-to-day basis deal with some of the negativity, or some of the client issues, or some of the non-medical things that go on. And so I think that the big answer to that question is that we can make things last a lot longer for our team members if we make it fun, challenging, exciting, and someplace that they can grow.
That's phenomenal. That's exactly what I'm trying to chase right now in my other work. And I've been focusing on the burnout and just the general happiness of the veterinarians and veterinary teams in the last 3 years. And, I looked at it from many angles. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a specialist on burnout, but I was trying to absorb as much information as I can. And it's not a switch, it's not binary, whether you're happy or not happy. There's multiple factors. What you've touched on, and I think that's what kind of drives you and why you look and sound so happy, is because you always had a next challenge in front of you. What I'm finding more and more is that I think that our veterinarians are burning out because they have this big goal of becoming a veterinarian. And when they arrive to it, there's no structured path of how to go further. Yes, they can do a board certification, but I think instead of opening the opportunities for them, board certification actually closes the opportunity because now you're hyper focused on one thing to do well. So
Mhm.
all of a sudden, if you don't like this thing doing that anymore in the next 3 to 5 years, you're stuck because your income level has to be supported at the same place, or you have to take a step back. So people end up doing another board certification. So for the technicians, it's even more painful because they are in the profession where after sort of 30, 35 years old, it's not fun anymore to crawl on the floor with the dogs, and it's just physically impossible. So extending that ceiling and the career ladder is something that I'm looking at, and I just really want to dig in. What do you see as an opportunity for CSRs or customer service representatives as the career growth? And then what is it for technicians, because it's on its own the profession with the ceiling. So how do you see those two evolving, and what's in your practice and day-to-day application to clinic do you do to expand those professions?
So yeah, I think there's two parts to that. There's the part to it, which is involving growth in skill set. And then there's the part to it, which is involving growth in career path. There's two different things. And one of the things that I think that we miss or that we lose sight in is the fact that you can get a lot of happiness and a lot of, whether it be one-time enjoyment or whether it be, satisfaction in abilities with adding to your skill set. And so I think that we have to really look at the fact that there's two different things there that we need to cover, because there is a lot of growth and new opportunities that didn't exist before for either CSRs or for veterinary technicians, for VAs, for our doctors. Now that we are getting into the larger veterinary groups, there's so many growth opportunities that didn't exist, 10, 20, 30 years ago when I started. And those are all things that they can attain to, right? When you are really good at your job, when you're good at providing flow, when you're good at really looking at the things that intrinsically need to happen for a clinic, there's always that opportunity for growth, either to managing multiple clinics or managing your section of the clinic, or, managing a training program for a larger group or something along those lines. There's lots of opportunities like that, and that's career growth. So now we're really looking at the fact that, hey, no matter where you come into a career, and I will tell you, I came in as a volunteer when I was like knee high to a grasshopper, and I've been able to grow into multi-site management and into speaking and into doing some really amazing opportunities. So you can get anywhere that you want to, no matter who you are coming into a veterinary clinic, if you really do the work and try and add to your overall career set. But we also have to look at the fact that those individual skill set wins are something that can keep you going as well. So whether that be just having a better way of dealing with upset clients, having better realistic ways of talking to them and making sure that you can turn the way that they are into something that's supportive of how you practice, that's something. Or even those small goals like learning how to triage a client over the phone. When we think about it, we provide the least training to our CSRs, and they're the ones who are the first and the last people that our clients really see. And so when we think about that, how do we provide longevity to probably our lowest paid position, probably our least trained position, and the one who gets all of the nonsense, right? Well, if we can give them the tools in order to deal with that and in order to become really great in that position, and if we give them the opportunity to have a job ladder where they can grow into the next role, both of those things are something that can help create a very sustainable environment for those type of people.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, but I want to flip a switch and like say, one, it must be really interesting for you to be able to have this kind of personal life where you're running your own company and then you have the ability to go and take this learning and apply it in a corporate environment. But what about all the independent vets that make up the majority of veterinary clinics in the United States? How do they provide these, learning opportunities for their staff when they're busy being a doctor, the director of HR, and the janitor sometimes?
So I think the biggest thing to think about is that training is not a one-man show. And it really shouldn't be. And half of training is learning to train someone else. And so see, do, teach is a huge thing in any training program that I look at doing. And there are lots of different training programs out there. There's very, very cookie cutter ones. But one thing that I would say is that the best way to put a training program into place for your team is to have your team help design it, help grab that buy-in, help train each other. And I think that one of the things that I go through in my training boot camp on VetTechLife is I really go into how to set that up, but how to make it customized to your team. So when a veterinarian is thinking about putting a training program into place for his CSRs, I would argue that he shouldn't be doing all of that when he's being a janitor and all of the above. And I would argue that if he is being all of those things, that he's needing a training program more than others. He or she desperately needs someone to tell them to give it to their team. Delegation is the best way to make sure that the rest of your team is elevating themselves. And the moment that you don't delegate, you're actually keeping other people from growing.
Yeah, it's really interesting. One of the things that I thought about, Kelly, just as you were saying that, is sometimes we need to slow down so that we can go fast.
There's truth to that. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the rule of 10. The rule of 10 means that you spend 10 minutes teaching a task, and maybe it's 10 minutes more than you normally do that task, but you're going to save 10 minutes 5 times that day. And then you're going to save 10 minutes 10 times the next day when they train the next person. And then you're going to save 10 minutes 20 times the next week when they've trained 3 other people. It's a very multipliable thing. And the other thing with that is that you're training someone how to train someone. So the moment that you can make that a repeatable thing, it's a very, very necessary thing for a group. And a lot of people say, gosh, she's my best technician. I can't lose her, can't let it go. But the reality is that the best technician on the floor is the one who's training everyone else how to do what they do.
That makes complete sense. So there's 3 big initiatives that I'm seeing in your life right now, right? Aside from the real estate that we're not talking about, right? The in veterinary domain. So NVA, you have a big role there. Then you're in VetTechLife. So that's the other side. And the third one is the business that you're a CEO of, the Success Strategies Veterinary Consulting. Can you describe to the latter two? What do they do? How they intersect, or how they're separate from each other? Those initiatives.
Sure. NVA is my day job. I love it so much. It definitely is more than just during the day. I have a bunch of emergency clinics involved in that. So sometimes that extends until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And it's very comforting to know that I have that ability to work with teams that are just so phenomenal, specialty and ER, and really give them support where I can. And then my side businesses, so VetTechLife and Success Strategy University. VetTechLife actually started in 2007 when I was a baby. No, I'm just kidding. I'm very old. But the two folks who started that, Moira and Casey, have just done a phenomenal job of creating something that is just supportive of veterinary technicians and veterinary support staff. They saw all of the support levelers that were out there for veterinarians, and they just felt like it was lacking on the technician side. And so they created a CE platform that really catered to those who didn't have the huge CE budget, that didn't have, that huge ability to take off time. And so they were really looking for something that was supportive of those team members at very low cost, at very easy access, that type of thing. And it morphed into creating our VetTechLife CE on the Sea events, which are amazing opportunities. And I think that one of the things that we see in veterinary technicians is we've notoriously been a lower paid role. And so with that, we've always kind of lived a little bit paycheck to paycheck. And part of my big bent is to provide some financial backup so that people can really get out of that day-to-day rut and start to really grow their income and start to grow their potential there, and their potential just for savings and for better money management. But in addition to that, we wanted to create a CE where technicians could get a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but do it on a little bit of a lower budget. So that VetTechLife CE on the Sea was born out of that. We did a cruise because it's all-inclusive. So all of a sudden, we could provide a cruise with a group together hotel and dinners and lunches and the CE itself. And we did it all as sponsored as we possibly could so that people could really afford to do it. And the most magical part of all of that was watching all these team members who'd never been out of the state, who'd never seen the ocean, who'd never seen a dolphin, who'd never seen, just get to do these incredible. We had one gal who never saw a pelican. She spent 45 minutes crying about having met a pelican. And honestly, it was one of the most magical experiences of my life, and we've been able to do it a few times. COVID has derailed us a little bit there, unfortunately, but we'd like to get it back up. And then success strategies really dovetails into that. I've been able to do speaking at multiple events and kind of getting out there and sharing how to put training programs into place. And there's nothing more rewarding than somebody coming up to you, a couple conferences after you were at the last one and saying, yeah, I got a training program into place now. And now we have a couple of people who are in tech school because of that. And it's an amazing thing. And so Success Strategies provides the content for all of our online learnings.
You've got some bullet points in talking points. Can you run through all of those really quickly? Because I think they're all super important for our listeners to hear. And I just love how you're innovating on something that people don't even think to innovate on. So go, please, talk through those points for us.
Well, I think the biggest thing in training programs is to make sure that it's repeatable, right? So utilizing all of your team members as much as possible, making sure that that you have very customized training programs, making sure that you're utilizing what's in place. So don't burn what you already have to the ground. Really utilize what you have and build upon it. And it's not going to be something that's tomorrow. Progress over perfection is the way to go, because honestly, having something is better than having nothing. And you can always modify as you go with implementation of that. And then making sure that you're really taking those team members to the next step by constantly providing that training ladder. I think that one of the things that we think is that people come out of tech school trained or people come out of veterinary school trained. And the reality is that those training points hit such a small part of the job. I mean, we joke about it all the time, but veterinarians are definitely scrubbing the floors in between some appointments. And so if we give them the actual training program that helps support those things that are not necessarily something they get in school, and if we give them a training program that really speaks to our clinic, we're going to make sure that we don't have any issues, in our clinic. And it's very expensive not to have a training program, whereas it's fairly affordable to eke a training program into your day-to-day life.
Absolutely. So I want to kind of envision a day in life of Kelly Cronin. So when you're approaching these teams, because I've been to many, many specialty and ER hospitals, and as I was implementing SmartFlow, you walk in there and then there's some dude that is implementing software. So that's the attitude that you get. Now you're some consultant that comes out from the outside. You don't know what we're doing here. We're special. That's always the thing. Mm-hmm. And then you don't know our workflows. You don't know our life. What does it look like for you to arrive to a new hospital that is scheduled or needs help, or you're just walking in? What does that look like, the engagement? How do you interact with the team? How do you get into the buy-in so they're then listening and wanting to have this training program to upgrade their skill set and to advance in their career?
First thing I do is identify the pain points. A fair amount of time when you're walking into these clinics, you're walking in and you say, okay, so what's the worst thing about your clinic right now? And you know how often it's, gosh, we just don't have enough people and we don't have time to train, right? And so if you can design based on what their pain points are, as opposed to designing what you know that they need, quotation mark, that's going to get you a lot further with these clinics. So, for example, we don't have time to train. Well, we don't have time to train translates to our very, very, very best techs don't have time to step off the floor to do something in terms of training. So how can we make that happen while it's on the floor, while you're busy? How can we make sure that one team member gets trained and then can train 3 others? How can we make sure that your lower level team members are involved in that so that you're not the only one who's giving up your time to do it? And so we really have to think about what's the biggest problems and how do we design a training program to solve them as opposed to make bigger ones.
That makes complete sense. So there are some things that are new and coming out from VetTechLife you mentioned before the show. So where we can learn about that, and what is the information that we would like to pass on to our listeners?
I love that you asked that. VetTechLife.com has been around since 2007. Thank you, Marie and Casey, for starting such an amazing thing. We are doing a complete and total VetTechLife website revamp. There'll be lots of good things on there, including a bunch of CE listings and a place-to-place job boards, but job boards that are a little bit more centric to our actual team. So giving full salary information, giving information as to what to expect with those so that you have some visibility into the jobs that you're looking at. And we're going to do a full Vet Tech Week, National Vet Tech Week launch. So we'll be having some really fun online events. We've got some amazing people coming to play tiny concerts with us. We'll have some vet celebrities involved in that. And so we have some really amazing things coming down the pike there. I would love for you guys to all head on over to vettechlife.com, see what some of the prizes are. We're giving away a 5-day stay in Vieques, Puerto Rico, or Alaska, or Utah. So that'll be fun, but definitely head on over there and see what there is to be seen on National Vet Tech Week.
Awesome, Kelly. Well, this has been so much fun, and like a preemptive thank you for everything that you're doing to drive the profession forward. We like to end every episode in the same way. So we've got a couple questions for you. A book, a TED Talk, a YouTube video, something that's inspired you on your career path to today.
Absolutely. I don't know, you guys have heard of Everything is Figureoutable by Marie Forleo, but it is probably one of the most amazing books that I've ever encountered. And every time I figure that I cannot get a fridge delivered to Vieques, Puerto Rico, I think about that book, and everything really is figureoutable. And well, now there's a fridge, so life is good. I think that it's one of those things that we need to have books like that in our lives right now, because everything feels like it's on fire, and that book tells you that there are fire extinguishers at every corner.
And of course, we cannot not advertise your book. So please tell us the name of the book and where you can get it.
So In the Middle is available on Amazon or Lulu.com or on VetTechLife. And that one is about middle management for veterinary technicians. And I will be coming out with a book called Why We Pet Puppies randomly. That is just 30 years of fun stories, kind of a feel-good. I felt like 2021 desperately needed a feel-good veterinary book. So thanks, James Herriot, but not really that good at writing. So if you can suffer through my writing style, it'll be a little bit James Herriot-esque.
That's awesome. And then the other question that we ask, who is the guest that you think would be interesting to our audience, and who would you suggest inviting here next time?
So I was going to say Amy Newfield. She is an amazing innovator in management. She actually has a book out, Oops, I Became a Manager. And I think that the nice thing about the way that Amy presents management is that it's very much centric on creating a team with good culture, as opposed to creating a team and then managing them. I think that you really have to think about creating the dream team. So making sure that they align with your goals, making sure that you have your culture already picked out, and then hiring to the culture fits that you need.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinaryinnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.